Hello there, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another video today. I have a card that I made to coincide with the Brutus Monroe blog, so I will have that listed down below so that you can check that out if that's something that you're interested in doing. Today I'm going to use the So Emotional stamp that was just recently released from Brutus Monroe. And I do apologize, my Misti doesn't quite fit on my desk that entirely, so you're going to see what I'm doing, but not entirely. So I do apologize for that. I'm going to start off by trying to line up my stamp. If you notice, I am not taking any of those stamps off of their packaging. I am just going to use a little bit of repositionable tape right on the back there, and I'm going to stick it right to my Misti door. This will make it so much easier. I have a piece of Express It cardstock inside my Misti, and I'm only stamping up those 12 little emojis that you see, and I'm going to stamp those down, and I'm going to move the paper underneath so that I can have a full panel of those darling little emotional emojis. Once I'm done stamping each little section, I'm going to move my paper and manipulate that just so that I can get the emojis that I need next. So I'm inking that up, and I did get a little ink on one of the others, so I just wipe it off with my finger. I don't do the best job of getting the emojis completely inked up, and that's okay. I will just use a Tombow marker to cover the places that I messed up on. I learned this the hard way because the back panel, I started to try and do it, and then for whatever reason, I wasn't very good at doing the re-stamping. I don't know if it's just because I don't have it right up against a corner or what the problem is, but I was having an issue. So it double stamped and it looked funny. So I'm stamping on the back of the paper, and that's the beauty of using cardstock. You can always flip it over. And then, after that, if you do it again, you have to just grab a new piece. But in my case, I thought, all right, we'll just really try and ink that up the best we can, stamp it down, and if there are a couple of spots that are not as inked as they should be, then I will just use the Tombow marker that I have, and you'll see me do that later on. So this is just a matter of, kind of eyeballing and manipulating that paper around underneath before I actually stamp so that I have it fairly lined up. And I don't do a perfect job, but because of all the movement with the eye that you're going to be doing, you don't really notice it too much. It's not something that's like, unless you're super OCD, which I'm not, you will, it's not something that you're really going to focus on because there's just so many little emojis on there. See, there's another one I didn't quite get, and because the paper got completely moved, I just decided I would just move on and use a marker to fill in the gaps. Now, I could use my Misti corners. That probably would have helped quite a bit, but I was lazy. I know you're shocked. And there you go, there's the panel. So I'll start doing some very simple Copic coloring, but before I do that, I'm going to heat set this. The Brutus Monroe Raven Detail ink does tend to stay wet for just a little bit, and not wet enough to actually hold any embossing powder, but it does stay wet, and if you are not careful, you will smear the ink with your Copic markers. So I always try to heat set that just for a little bit to make sure that I don't smudge the ink underneath. And now I'm just coloring with it's the Y17 Copic marker. And like I said, this is such super coloring, or super simple coloring, because there's only a few things that you're going to actually need to color in here. So we're going to speed through this like not just double time, but quadruple time. I decided because these are emojis and they usually don't have a lot of shading because they're fairly flat, I just went with the one color. And then for the light blue on the tears, or the light blue on the tears, I'm going to use a BG23, and for the tongue and hearts, I'm using RV25. So simple. I'm cutting down some more of that bold rainbow 6x6 pattern paper from Brutus Monroe. I'm totally obsessed with this paper right now, which is why I used it in the last video, or the last card that I made for the blog as well, because this stuff is awesome. And here's where you can see that I am trying to fix some of those marks. I didn't catch them all, but I'm just using a Tombow marker. I will have that listed down below if that's something that you're interested in, but it's really easy. You can, just cover your mistakes that way. I do apologize that my camera is still zoomed in. Sometimes I just get in the zone and I'm not paying quite the attention I should be, but I'm just putting some liquid glue on the back of that panel and sticking that down to my card base, which is just a white card base. And then I'm going to take that same liquid glue and I'm going to adhere my bold rainbow paper down as well. I do end up covering a little bit, just a little bit, a few of those emojis, not a big deal. And then I'm going to go on to, now that I've realized my camera was all zoomed in, I'll go on to stamping my sentiment. I'm going to use the thanks, which is super cute, THX. I'll stamp that out and then I'll double stamp it up top so that I have, I guess, the second generation stamp. I stamped it off again and then I'll use that second generation stamp one more time so that way it looks like I've got thanks, thanks, thanks. I'm trimming down some of that Glitterstock. I love the Glitterstock from Brutus Monroe. And then I'm going to adhere that because I felt like I just need a little something extra. So I'll just use my liquid glue to adhere down that little strip of Glitterstock. And then I'm going to use some foam tape on the thanks. And I will have everything that I've used listed down below, so be sure to check that out. And be sure to check out the blog. Head on back there if that's something that you're interested in doing. I'll trim off the excess. And then this is where I grab my foam tape because I decide I do want a little bit of dimension. And I'll tear that off, peel off the backing paper, and the lines on that paper make it super easy to just line that right up. And for a final bit of effect, I'm going to use some glossy accents on the tongues, the hearts, and the tears, and the little heart eyes. And once I am done with that, that is going to finish off this card. So if you liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Be sure to head to the blog and see what we've been up to. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.